Hey everybody, it's Mr. D, and I've had a few people ask me in the recent weeks how to access the Anchor Download podcast. First and foremost, thank you so much for your interest in our podcast. And I wanted to share with you a few ways that you can listen to it. Number one, if you have an iPhone, the easiest way is by clicking on the podcast app that's already on your phone. Now, if you'll notice on my screen here, the podcast app is purple and simply is called Podcast with a little logo that has a little guy and a couple of circles around him. That is the podcast app. After you go to the podcast app, in the bottom right corner, the easiest way to find the Anchor Download podcast is by clicking on the search tab in the bottom right corner. Once you search for the Anchor Download, that's what you'll type in the search bar, you will come to this screen here. You'll notice that we have individual episodes that you can download, but the easiest way to get every single episode of the Anchor Download is by tapping on the podcast app and then clicking on subscribe. You'll notice that mine says unsubscribe because I'm already subscribed to the Anchor Download podcast. So that is the easiest way to access the podcast. Now, if you have an Android, I'm sorry, I don't have an Android, so I don't have a tutorial with pictures to show you how to do that, but you can download free podcasting apps like Podcast Addict or Podbay and search for the Anchor Download podcast, much like I just showed you for iPhone. If you don't have a smartphone, where we load our websites, where we load our podcast is a place called Podomatic.com. The best way to go to our site is by my particular account name, which is the Mr. D Show 12.podomatic.com. And if you'll go to that particular site, you don't have to download every single episode because every single one you can listen to directly on this particular website. Also, we have just started our brand new anchordownload.com website that's going to have every single podcast eventually that we've ever recorded, including the latest one every single week. You go to anchordownload.com, click on podcast, and of course, the archive will open up with every single episode. Now, I'll need to reorder these. Our latest one is season 2, episode 23, called March Madness. It's located as track 4, but eventually I'll get it to a point where I have all the latest one as number 1, and then every single episode we've ever done before that listed as tracks below. Thank you so much once again for your interest in the Anchor Download podcast. And if we can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to ask.